Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a tag that has been created by my wonderful friend Gloria from Gloria Violet and the Neverending TBR, and that is the genre book tag. So I love this tag, the idea of this tag, because what she's done is she's created a set of 8 questions, I think? 9 questions plus the tag, that can be answered for any genre. So you pick the genre of your choice, then you answer the questions. She was kind enough to tag me when she did this originally. It's taken me like 3 months to get around to it, so I'm really sorry, Gloria, but here I am doing the tag. Really excited about it. The great thing about this tag is that you can obviously do multiple versions, so I am going to do one genre today, and then I'll probably do a different genre in a few months' time, because I just really like the questions and just the feel of it. So today I'm going to be doing this on the genre of historical fiction, which is probably a bit of a surprise to most people, given that thrillers is probably my most read genre. But actually, when I was thinking about which genre to do, firstly, thrillers felt a bit obvious, although I probably will do a thriller version, probably around the summer edition of Thrillerathon, if there is one. I was thinking about the books I love, and actually I think historical fiction is actually probably my favourite genre. It's usually the one that brings me the most pleasure and joy when I read it. Good historical fiction, that is. And I have some fairly specific likes and dislikes within the genre, so this felt like a good time to do this, talk about historical fiction, because I haven't really talked about it on my channel yet, particularly not in a specific video. And so yeah, here we go, let's do the tag. So question 1, one of your favourite standalone books. Now this question specifically says one favourite, but when I was looking through my books, I've got 3 is basically the short answer to this. I've got 3 standalones that I just love and that I think should be read more. And also I think these books show kind of the range of historical fiction that I read, because I think a lot of people think historical fiction is just like Tudor times, or and I say that, I do actually have a Tudor series I want to talk about in a minute, but it's not just that, and it's not also just wartime books or whatever. And these 3 I feel like demonstrate my particular love for historical fiction quite well. So the first one of those is The Wonder by Emma Donoghue, and I talked about this in the end of the year tag, which I will put up here as one of the books to kind of transition into the end of the year, I think. This is set in Ireland in, where are we in time? I think it's the 1800s. And basically, does it tell me? No, it doesn't. Basically, a nurse is sent to a tiny village where a girl is claiming to have survived on God's will alone for the last few months, and she has to go and figure out what's going on, how this girl's surviving, and basically things go from there. I really love Emma Donoghue as an author. She also wrote Room. This is incredibly different, which is one of the things I liked so much about it, but it's also really atmospheric. The mystery's really good, it's very clever, and yeah, I just thoroughly enjoyed it and would really recommend it. So there's that one. I've then got a very different one, which is The Rules of Magic by Alice Hoffman. This is set in the 1960s. It's the prequel to Practical Magic, in which we follow the aunts from Practical Magic and their brother. I've got a whole review that I did on this last year, which again I will put up here for you, talking about this in depth. It's one of my favourite books of all time. Alice Hoffman is just a beautiful writer, and she does magical realism so well. So yeah, it's magical realism, but it also counts as historical fiction because it's set in the 60s, and I cannot recommend it enough. And then the last one made it onto my favourite reads of 2019, which I will put up here, and that is The Illumination of Ursula Flight by Anna Marie Crowhurst. This was such a surprise. It was a book that I saw Harriet talking about from Harriet Rosie Reads, and again I can't remember when it's set exactly. Oh yeah, 1664 is when it starts, and it literally just follows the life of Ursula Flight. She's this incredible character. She writes scripts, she wants to be a playwright, and massive chunks of the book are written or done in script format, and she's just wonderful. I had an absolutely fabulous time reading this. I will definitely be rereading this at some point this year. Cannot recommend it enough. I also won this glorious edition in a Bookstagram giveaway. And if we're talking about favourite standalone historical fiction, it's got to be on the list. So there's that. So we're already, first question, I've already given 3 answers instead of 1. Anyway, one of your favourite series. So one of my favourite historical fiction series is the Matthew Shardlake series by C.J. Sansom, the rest of which you can see up here. I've talked about these books before. I've also got Simone from me, Simone and I, into reading them because I sent her one. I saw one on her wish list and sent it to her for Christmas, so hopefully she'll enjoy it. This is the first one. It's the smallest in the series, and it's 300 and... No, it's not. It's over 400 pages. It's 480 pages, and they do get bigger from here. So this breaks all the rules of my normal reading. So usually I'm like, I don't read series, I don't read big books, not interested. However, my brother sent me this one when I was poorly in 2018. And I flew through it, really enjoyed it, and now I'm 5 books in. I think I've got 2 books left to read at the time that I'm filming this. I love these books and this series. So Matthew Shardake is set in Tudor London. In this book, he's just Henry VIII has just headed Anne Boleyn, and we're going through, as you can guess from the title, the dissolution of the monasteries. Matthew Shardake is a solicitor, lawyer, but he also solves mysteries. He's basically kind of a inspector before there was one, because that job role didn't exist in those times. So he basically solves mysteries and crimes, and each book is set in a slightly different year or whatever within the Tudor times, and I just love the way these are written. The last one that I read, we'll talk about in a minute, was over 700 pages. It is huge. It's one of the biggest books I've ever read. Didn't even notice how long it was. I just love the writing, and I'm going to be sad when this series is over. So if you're looking for historical fiction, I'd really recommend these. Even if you don't like historical fiction but you just like a good mystery book, these are really, really good. They're not particularly gory, they're not like, you know, scary, anything like that. So yeah, I would really, really recommend this series. Question 3, what is a trope you like in this genre? So kind of following on from this book, I like it if it's got a good mystery or twist. I kind of prefer historical fiction that is historical fiction plus a bit of another genre. So, you know, historical fiction plus magical realism, or historical fiction plus a mystery. So anything like that I'm really into. And yeah, that's definitely kind of a... Is that a trope? I don't know if it is. I'm not sure what tropes there are in historical fiction particularly, but that was what came to mind when I saw this question. Question 4, what is a trope you don't like in this genre? I am slightly bored of the kings and queens thing. So I know I talked about, obviously, Henry VIII in this book, but that was to give historical context. In this series, we very rarely actually interact with Henry VIII. Occasionally we interact with one of his queens, which is fine, and the court, but it's not directly telling the story of the court and the queens and stuff, so that's fine. So yeah, I'm a little bit bored of that trope. I also don't really read, I'm not interested in reading like wartime historical fiction. For some reason it just doesn't appeal. I don't know if it's because it's too close in time maybe, but there's just, I've never seen a book set in that time period that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really interested. However, if you've got any good recommendations, then please shout me, because I'm always happy to give it a go. So yeah, those are kind of 2 things I'm not massively interested in when it comes to historical fiction. Question 5, a disappointing book in the genre. Now, this is a book that I still own, just mostly because I like the aesthetic of it, if I'm being entirely honest. But it's a book that I read from an author that I've really, really enjoyed previously, and I've read lots of her books, but this one just didn't hit it for me, and that was The Virgin's Lover by Philippa Gregory. It's a tricky one because it's a big book, and I read it really quickly, so the pace was fine. I think it was just because of the characters that were involved. It was just like a lot of horrible people doing horrible things to each other, and that's never something I enjoy, no matter what the genre is. So for me, I just didn't love this one, which was a shame. I have really enjoyed the rest of... I've read basically all of her series, her Tudor series. Loved The Other Boleyn Girl, but this one just fell a little bit short for me. Next question. What's a book on your TBR that you want to get to soon? So I don't have a copy of this because I haven't bought it yet, but I'm hoping to get to it in the first half of this year, and that is The Warlow Experiment by Alex Nathan. I saw Harriet from Harriet Rosie Reads talking about it. If I can find her video, then I will link it in the description. And it sounds really interesting, and I've heard a couple other people talk about it, and it's basically set, actually I'm not sure when it's set, but it's based on a real experiment where a rich man put a advert in the newspaper looking for someone who was willing to live completely secluded for 12 months because he wanted to study the effects, and it became known as the Warlow experiment. And I'm fascinated because that as a concept anyway, irregardless of it being historical fiction, really interests me, and how that would go and what the effects would be. And then also obviously it's historical fiction as well, so that's kind of just an added bonus. So yeah, that's definitely a book that I want to get to this year. If you've read it, then let me know what you thought, because I'm really intrigued on people's opinions by it. Question 7, intimidating book or series. So going back to Matthew Shardlake, it is the Matthew Shardlake series. It is quite intimidating. This was the last one I read, Heartstone, which you'll have seen in my December wrap up, which I will put up here. This is 750 pages, bang on. It's huge. Like I said, you can see the other ones here. This is the biggest one I've read so far. I've got 2 more books left. I think the next one, which is called Lamentation, is slightly smaller, and then the last book, which I can't remember what it's called, and it's not in this edition, I think it's like 900 pages. So they're not small books, so I do find them quite intimidating when I get them. However, as soon as I start reading them, I just thoroughly enjoy myself. But like I've said a few times, I am slightly hesitant to read the last 2 because I know that's the end of the series. He's not going to write anymore, and I'm going to be really sad to get to the end. But yeah, in terms of intimidating series that I'm willing to read, it's definitely this one. Then the final question. No, I've got 2 more questions. What is another book genre that you want to read more of? Now, honestly, I'm happy with the balance of my reading. I read cross genres, I read non-fiction, I read fiction, I read classics, I read contemporary, I read thrillers, I read historical fiction, I read basically most things. I think the only things that I don't read, well, I'm going to talk about one of those in a minute, but I feel like I'm happy with the balance of my reading. I think I've got it pretty good at the moment. So yeah, I haven't got any genres that I particularly want to read more of at this point, but that obviously might change. Then the final question, what is a book genre that intimidates you the most? Honestly, sci-fi. And I'm not really intimidated by it, it's more that I'm just not interested. However, my 10-year-old is getting increasingly into sci-fi, and I tried to kind of read along with him as much as possible, so we might be seeing more sci-fi on my reading lists soon, and hopefully I enjoy some of it. It's just not really something that interests me or that I would pick up on my own, but we'll give it a go, we'll see what happens. So yeah, sci-fi is probably, I don't know that it intimidates me, I'm just not as interested, but we'll go with that as the answer. And then finally, I've got 3 people that I would like to tag, all of which will be linked in the description. They are 3 lovely booktubers that I really, really enjoy. I always watch all of their content, and yeah, you should definitely go and follow them, because if you like what I'm doing, what they're doing is very similar. So yeah, you should definitely go and check them out. First of all, I want to tag Charlotte from Books and Bargains, then I want to tag Kerry-Ann from Woman vs Books, and then also Chloe from Chloe Reads Books, because I'd be really interested to see what genres you ladies choose and your answers to these questions. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Please leave me a comment below, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks guys, bye!